welcome. We're going to finish working on the syllabus. Go ahead and grab your syllabus, take it out, let's talk about it. For those of you that did not make it to class Tuesday, you're not in trouble or anything, but you may not have a syllabus. The syllabus, if you didn't get one Tuesday, it's in PDF over in web courses. There should be a plain link to it in there, or there is a plain link to it in web courses. Go ahead and grab that, read through it. We're going to go through the last half of the syllabus from the bottom of the first page to the second page. Now, last time we talked about grades. We talked about exams. Let me repeat this idea about exam. Derek, could you move this lectern back just a little bit so I can see everybody? Yeah, great. Thanks. Appreciate it. About exams, you know, you may be concerned about the fact, oh, well, I'm not a science major. I'm not an engineering major, so I really suck at science. I don't want you to think that way, all right? My exams, I like to say that this phrase, tough to flunk, but yet tough to ace, is what holds for my exams. And what it means is that on exams, I tend to place a good fraction of the test in basic questions that if you've been to lecture faithfully and if you have done your homework every time and if you have done an ordinary amount of studying, you should be squared away on the basics, all right? And that makes it tough to flunk. And I find that most of the time that's, you know. Now, if you don't study, it's not going to be tough to flunk. It'll be flunkable. But normally, if you do the normal amount of studying and stuff and you're not a total slacker, it's going to be tough to flunk. But yet, even with maximum effort, so coming to office hours on Wednesdays, and for those of you that that tried to go yesterday, I injured my back in the yard and I couldn't make it to office hours yesterday. But we'll have office hours next Wednesday, hopefully, unless the hurricane turns straight into Orlando. If it gets bigger and stronger and knocks out Orlando, I'll be here if it doesn't do that. Anyways, if you come to office hours, go to SI with Shy. Do all the homework. Participate in discussions in web courses, in the discussions board. If you do extra studying and you bug me after class every day, you're still going to find that it is challenging and tough to ace my exam. Now, you might get a 90%, 45 out of 50, but most of the time, even if you do all the maximum and above and beyond the maximum, you're going to find it very challenging to get 100%. All right? And I think that's fair, and it works out fairly well. To ace an exam in here, it has been done, and it could happen this semester. But it's not going to come easy. Taking a low grade on an exam, most people are going to, find it tough to flunk as well. And that's how I write my exams. That's how this class goes generally exam-wise, so midterms and final. All right. Another thing I want you to really get it into your head is the following, that in this class, memorizing, using flashcards, etc., is not going to help you a whole lot. I mean, I guess it'll help a little bit. And you may be used to using, English class or history or something. Anatomy, I know they have to use flashcards and memorize stuff there. If you're used to classes like that, that's nice. But in this class, it's not going to help you a whole lot. What I want you to do is to think. And to think about the things that you read and the concepts that you read about, the things that we observe, guys, up here on the stage, rolling down the aisles like we did with Colin and Cody last time. I want you to think carefully about that stuff. And that is not, and memorizing is, Caroline, it's not, memorizing is not how you, we can hire any number of engineering majors over here to memorize. That doesn't take any talent. Now raise your hand if you've ever known an engineering major that's annoying. Yeah, a bunch of Are there any engineering majors in here? Okay. They don't want one. Okay. Usually there's a couple engineering majors in here. Anyways, memorizing is not the ticket. But thinking is. And I want you to think of your work here as an area where you may find new confidence, scientifically speaking. So in other words, you may think, oh man, in high school, I wasn't very good at science, Dr. B. Math class, I just, forget about it. But now in this class with me, a lot of you are going to find that now whoa, I'm starting to get this stuff. I'm getting good at science. A lot of you are going to find that. I never know who it is going to be. It could be you, right? It could be you over there with the pink shirt. Cody, it could be you way in the back. You got your skateboard today? Good. I never know who it's going to be, but it could be anybody, and I always do observe it, that there's going to be, and this is because you're maturing. It's an intellectual maturation, and even though you may have been kind of stinky in high school, this is a university now. This is serious work, okay? So, and you're going to rise to the challenge. You're going to start stomping on things and crushing exams and stuff like that. Now, I never know who it's going to be, but I know it's going to be a bunch of yous, all right? And so it could be you, and I want you to think of yourself as being that person and writing your history and finding that, yeah, I was the guy Dr. B was talking. I was the young lady Dr. B was talking about. And I never know who it is, but it's always very interesting to find. So just think about that. Be encouraged. And I'm never going to deliberately discourage you. And even if you have a hard grade on an exam, where you really biff it, I'm going to always encourage you to keep striving upward, because I know it can be done. It's been done a million times. All right? So I'm never going to discourage you any other way, any way like that. Except in this. I do not grade in the curve, ever. Never. All right? And the reason I don't is, there's several reasons. I don't have to curve on the grade. But even if I wanted to, it would be grossly unfair, because I expect many of you to take down an A by the end of the semester. Maybe not immediately, but by the end of the semester. Now, if I was grading on the curve, that would restrict the number of people that I can give an A. That's what curve does. Grading on the curve. So many people get an A, so many people are allowed to have a B, so many people are allowed to have a C, and a lot of them, the biggest group is a C. But if everybody in here gets an A, I'm going to give you an A. So that's why I never grade on the curve. Basically, I'm trying to get everybody in here to break that curve apart into smithereens. And by God, we do every semester. All right? And so if you earn an A, you get it. No ifs, ands, or buts. Now, some other class, the prof might curve the grades. I have no control over that. But for this class, yeah, if you earn it, you get it. All right? And I'm very happy about that. Okay? Okay. By the way, there's one more thing on the syllabus. I mentioned the two strategies. Strategy to get a good grade, top grade. Strategy to get an F. If you want to get an F, skip class. That's it. I hardly ever give out Fs. And I don't give many Ds out either. That's all right. The Ds and the Fs that I give out, usually if I look at their grade book and all the data that I have compiled for them that goes into their grade, usually the one common denominator is they've missed a lot of class. Because going with that, they've missed a lot of class participation, clickers, and they usually miss a lot of homework. And then when the exams come, they might have missed exams. And if they're at the exam, because they weren't in class, they flail on an exam, and they end up getting low grades. And so that's why I always say, yeah, if you want an F, just start skipping class. But if you want to get a decent grade, just make sure you're here faithfully. If you want to get a top grade, you're going to have to work. It's tough to flunk, but yet tough to ace. So, but I'll give you an A if you earn it. And many of you will be surprised by the end of the semester, hey, I got an A from Dr. B. My first A in science ever. And I'm very happy about that. I'm happy to do that. Okay, here's the grading scale. I think we talked about this. 75% for a B, 90% for an A, 60% for a C. And I go by points. I don't go by percentages. So there'll be enough bonus points. Almost everybody's going to get 1 or 2 bonus points. So we just go by the number of points that you get, and not the percentage. The percentage tells me how many points to make my cutoffs. So when you have bonus points over the semester, you're going to try to get across those borderlines. All right, exam procedures. For each exam, bring a good number 2 pencil and a good eraser, because we're going to be using the UCF Scantron, the raspberry colored one with the UCF Pegasus logo on it. And if you make a mistake and you have to erase it, a lot of times those little pink rectangular ones from 2nd grade, those are really good erasers for Scantrons. The ones on your pencil sometimes just smudge things up, and that's no good. You don't want to do that. So definitely bring that. Bring your clicker as well. Raise your hand if you got your iClicker 2 already. Ooh, nice. And I know a lot of you have registered your iClicker 2. And if you have done that, I'll probably update my roster. I synchronized the roster this morning at about 7:45 from home. And I'll probably do it again after I leave class. It takes about 10 minutes. It's pretty slow for a big class. But you'll get a bonus point if you can get it synchronized today. Question? What app? Reef? Reef? There's no Reef. No, we don't use Reef. I don't even know what Reef. Somebody else emailed me about that. Yeah, I have no idea what Reef is. That's a software from the iClicker company. Oh, I know what that is. That's the one where you use your cell phone for clicking. No, we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be doing clickers, just the regular clickers. Okay, so yeah, I don't have to do any Reef, just the clicker, and you have to register in web courses. I'll show you how in a few minutes. Bring a scientific calculator like this one. Let's see, where did I put mine? Dude. Oh, it's in my pocket. All right. Yeah, something like this, $15 at Kmart or Walmart. Ought to do good. Anything, if you have a square root key, that'll be good. Because we're not going to do a lot of trig and stuff like that. We'll do some Pythagorean theorem, but that's about it. So Pythagorean theorem, you need to have a square root key. Question? You may use a graphing calculator. It's not going to help you out a lot. This is more than enough. Graphing calculator is like, It's like going to the grocery store in a Ferrari. Yeah, you can do it, but why would you want to? Yeah, if you already have one, you can use it. Yeah. However, what you cannot use, what you may not use, you must not use, is a cell phone. So if you don't have one of these, and you come to the exam, and you got to do a calculation, you're going to have to do it longhand like 6th grade, which will only take another minute or so. You should have enough time to do it, but you can't use the cell phones in lecture, or excuse me, in exams, and therefore you can't use a cell phone calculator on your iPhone or your Android device. So so be prepared for that. Just make sure you have one of these and you're good. Okay, here's the raspberry flavored, the raspberry colored. You can tell I haven't had my lunch yet. Raspberry. Those of you that are freshmen, no, it doesn't have a flavor. That was a slip of the tongue. As is customary, this is a direct quote from the syllabus. If you take all 3 midterm exams, we will drop the lowest score and keep the best 2. Now, if you miss one due to absence, whether excused or unexcused, all right, so if you have to leave town, for a religious observance, which, Rosh Hashanah this year and Yom Kippur, I've kind of built my my test schedule around them, so there shouldn't be any conflict. But if you have an excused absence or unexcused, like you have roommate issues on exam day, that's going to be effectively a 0 because you don't have a grade. Okay, and that will be your dropped exam. All right, so you want to avoid that because you want to be in the position, the luxury position at the end of the semester in which you have 3 to choose from, and you got to keep the best 2. All right, and so hopefully, because nobody's going to get 30, 30, and 30. Well, I suppose it's happened before. I've never checked, but most people are going to have a little bit of, up and down, maybe a lot. Some people may start the semester down here, and by the end of the semester, they take 2 big steps upward. We'll take those last 2, okay? If you, come down with strep, and you have 2 exams like this, and then the second exam way down here, below sea level, we'll drop that one. If you have all 3. So I highly recommend that you get here for the midterms and, of course, the final. So if you have to come in here on a wheelchair from the ambulance, if they have to, tear the roof apart and lower you by ropes from a helicopter, you get in here, all right, and take those exams. Because by the end of the semester, it'll feel really nice. Because, if you take 3 and one of them's stinky, but then you get to drop that one, then your grade automatically goes up. That's what we want. All right? And it'll work nice. Now, final exam is different. Everybody takes that. And for us, it's Thursday, December 10th. Now, that's on your syllabus. And, hey, you guys, that is mandatory. It's cumulative. It cannot be dropped. All right, so everybody in here is going to be at the final. All right, and for us it's Thursday. Now the other class, they go, I believe, Tuesday, the 15th. So you guys go first. And it's 10 a.m. It's not 10:30 a.m. or noon. It's 10. Make sure you're here on time. Because if you get here at 12, that's it, baby. I mean, if you're here before the first person leaves, you can't take the test, midterm or final. Doesn't matter. All right, so you got to be here on time. All right, especially with the final, because you're going to need it's twice as big as a midterm. Now you have 3 hours roughly for the final, and only twice the size of a midterm, but you're still going to want to have the luxury of working at a relaxed pace on the final, because The final is 40% of your grade. All right. So on that day, Tuesday, December 15th, until about 1 o'clock, make sure your schedule is clear. So that means don't plan to be out at OIA getting on a plane at 1:05. All right? Because I'm not going to give you an early exam. That's one. You better write that down in your syllabus. It's not in the syllabus, but it should be. I'll do it next semester. No early exams, no late exams. That's midterms, that's final. Final exam, midterm exam, no earlies, no lates, just the exam as scheduled on this syllabus. This syllabus is like a contract. I have to hold myself to it, and for darn sure, I hold you to it as well. I never budge. So if you have a job off campus and you look at your schedule and you're supposed to be working December 15th, you better tell your BOSS, I need the time off. Because Dr. B is not going to budge. Just tell your boss, yeah, man, my instructor, he's a real SOB. Son of a Brickner. And they'll give you the time off. And we usually don't have any problem. But you got to do it now or forever hold your peace. Question in the back. What? Oh, yeah, right. Let me change that. Hold on. Hold on a second. That's better. Okay, but it's still 1 o'clock. For your for the end of the exam, basically 12:50. All right. Now, questions about the final exam. Hold on a second over here. Did you still have a question? That was your question too. Yeah. Sorry for the typo. Go ahead. It's your syllabus is right. My slides were incorrect. Okay. Question. Dude. There we go. Now we're cooking. All right. But your syllabus is correct. All right. And that's like a contract. Another question. Another one. Okay. If you have an exam that conflicts with this one, we will handle that. And what you do is you have the professor for the other class contact me, and then he and I will work out a procedure. That's like the exception. We'll figure something out. Okay, question. Yeah, the statement up here, what's your first name? Rachel. Rachel said UCF usually designs it so that there's no conflict. And that usually is correct. But if it is, we'll work it out, professor to professor. Okay. Another question concerning exams or anything else. Okay, let's keep going. Bonus points. Number 4 in the syllabus list for today. Early registration of iClicker. A lot of you have done it. You'll get a bonus point for today. Some of you already had some from Tuesday. And we'll do another early registration bonus point next Tuesday. But then Thursday is the official start of clicking. All right, so everybody should be squared away by then. Side note, bonus points are never going to amount to a whole lot. So don't think of them as something that can replace a midterm. The midterms are 50 points, and we're not even going to be close to that many bonus points. Bonus points will get you a few bonus points, a handful of bonus points, by the end of the semester maybe, and that'll help you go across a borderline if you're a few points away, but it won't replace a midterm. I mean, midterms are 50%. They're 20. Each one is 20% of your grade, so you're not going to get that from bonus points. All right. But you'll see the bonus point opportunities as we go. We'll have some as we go. Question. I'm about to show you how to do that in just a minute. Okay. Here's the home page, and the place where you click is right up here in the upper right, or excuse me, upper left. Okay, so click on that. Do not use iClicker.com for this class. Now, if you have a psychology or history class that uses clickers and they use iClicker.com, that's fine. But for my class, you've got to register here inside web courses. All right? So what you do is you type in the serial number. Now, as I understand it, there's been some trouble with Chrome, Google Chrome, but apparently Firefox is handling it. Somebody else said, oh yeah, all you got to do is go into Firefox and refresh it like 20 times and it'll work. So, sorry. It's the web courses Canvas is a pain in the... If you don't do it Canvas's way, it's their way or the highway, unfortunately. But you just got to be persistent. And if all else fails, go over to the library or a computer lab and use one of the Windows boxes. But don't use Internet Explorer, because that's the worst browser of all time. If you go over there, do those computers in the library have Firefox or Chrome? Do they? Okay. Yeah, so use one of those other ones. Try not to steer away from Microsoft stuff in general, and especially Internet Explorer. Anyways, you click on this page, iClicker, and all you got to do is type in that number. It's really easy, and it's on the back of your clicker, but it's kind of really teeny letters, so you might have to get out a microscope to read them. Or if you turn the clicker on, it'll flash for about 3 seconds your serial number. So write down as much of it as you can before it turns off, and then turn it on again and get the rest of the serial number, and then type that in inside web courses, and it'll work great. Okay, question. I can't hear you. This fan up here drives me crazy. Financial aid disbursement and the surveillance of... Yeah, I answered that in discussions. And the answer... What is your name? Tiffany? Okay. Somebody else was asking about that, Tiffany. And that's your homework. You're squared away. Did you do the homework? Okay, you'll have homework tonight. Okay, or it'll by lunchtime tomorrow. So just get your homework done. Have you been in web courses at all? Yeah, good. And just so you guys know, they don't just track homework and stuff like that. They track everything. So if you send a message, they've got you. They're basically tracking clicks. And it's the web courses system is designed to do that. So it's just this big, huge mass of clicks that they comb through. And if they see you clicking, you get your financial aid. So if they don't see you clicking, I don't know what happens. Okay, next topic, special study groups. We'll form special study groups. SSG is my acronym for that. After exam 2. Now, what those are, they're small groups that are led by a student in this class, or maybe in the morning section, who has an A average. And the way it works is, after exam 2, Colin, I'll be able to identify everybody that has a 90% average on the first 2 exams. So like you might have a 43 and a 47 on exam 2, and that averages out to 90%. And so what I do is I invite those students to become a special study group leader. And what they agree to do is to lead 2 one-hour sessions, one session right before exam 3, the Wednesday or the I guess it's probably the weekend before exam 3. Because I think, is anybody got their syllabus? Exam 3 is a Tuesday, isn't it? Is that right? Yeah, okay. So exam 3 study groups will go from Thursday to Tuesday. So they'll figure out a time and a place, like the library Thursday night at 8. And then they'll have 6 students that come, and they'll have a 1-hour study session. Just work over problems and stuff, concepts. And then the students that go to that, they'll get 6 bonus, or excuse me, not 6. They'll get 4 bonus points. 6 students will get 4 bonus points for attending and participating in the special study group. And then we'll do it again. Special study group leaders will do the same thing again in preparation for the final exam. Okay, so that'll be during exam week. And they'll figure out a time and a place. They might change to all-night study and on, lunchtime or something like that fits their schedule. Then students look at the schedule and they sign up for the session that they can, join that fits their schedule. And we'll do that 2 times, once before exam 3, once before the final. Question? The student leading this, they don't get bonus points. They don't get bonus points. But it's a good thing you asked me. What's your name? Dante. Dante, it's a good thing you asked, because the special study group leaders, now listen carefully, if they first agreed to lead 2 sessions, if they hold 2 sessions, if they take attendance, and if they hand in the attendance sheet to me, so everybody, the 6 students that join their group have to sign the attendance sheet, sign-in sheet, and then they have to turn that into me. If those SSG leaders do that, they don't get any bonus points. But what they do get is this. They get to skip the final. How about that? Is that all right? Yeah, man. Boy, I tell you what, skipping the final, I'll take that any day of the week. And for no other reason, it simplifies your exam week for you. 1 fewer test to study for, more time for your other exams. So it works out good, and that's the benefit that they get. The 6 students that come. See, the reason that we do this is so that the students that are already functioning at 90% performance can help me lift up the guys that are not doing so hot. Now, there's never enough room in special study groups for everybody, but as many as we can, we'll set up. And usually what that means is that the students get first dibs on special study groups if they have a lower grade average. So, so maybe C minus down, C minus and below on the first 2 average on the first 2 exams get the first shot at joining up. But usually, when I open it up for everybody, there's still places. So if you have a B minus average or a B average on the exam, you might still be able to get a special study group slot, which is nice. So you get 4 bonus points. Question? 4 points for each time you go. Okay, so you get 4 points if you go to the one before exam 3 with Dante. And then 4 points when you go to Rachel's special study group before the final, if those guys are SSG leaders, So you total 8 points if you get to, So it's a nice chunk of change. That's their biggest bonus of the semester right there. So it's nice. Okay. Another question about SSG. Okay, so in conclusion about SSG, if you want to be an SSG leader, work your you-know-what off to get an A on exam 1 and exam 2 and let the chips fall where they may. And if you can make the grade by exam 2, There you go. It's a nice thing to do, and it really helps me out too. So, by the way, RTA Darien was a special study group leader when she was coming through this class the first time. So at least and Shy, no, Shy was not a special study group leader. So if you're not a special study group leader, don't be shy about that. You can still get an A, and many students do. Matter of fact, the best student I ever had here at UCF, Darian, I know this is going to break your heart. It's not you. It's a student that I had several years, but she's like number 2. A student I had a number of years ago named Simone, and she was in this class, and she took a face plant on exam 1. She didn't do so hot. But she was pretty smart, and and I think they had 4 midterm exams. And she did pretty good on the second one, and third one, fourth one, she built up her grade. And by the end of the semester, she didn't become a special study group leader. So she was just a regular student. But by the end of the semester, she was just crushing everything with impunity. She really accelerated. And by the final exam, she not only got the highest grade on the final, she had the highest grade of everybody, including SSG leaders. And that is awesome. And I kept telling her, Simone, come on, why don't you become a physics major? Because we've gotten physics majors. Sometimes we get them out of the engineering department and over to the physics department. But we've recruited physics majors from this class from time to time. But I couldn't get Simone. You know what her major was? Her major wasn't chemistry. It wasn't engineering. It was early childhood ed. Isn't that amazing? But she was absolutely the best. Absolutely. And then you know what else was cool? After that, she decided the next semester, I'm going to take my other GEP science with Dr. B, Astronomy 2002, Intro to Astronomy. And she crushed that. I mean, she was a ball of fire. And but she wasn't an SSG. Here's another SSG story. Several semesters, not a couple, but several semesters ago, Nitro was one of my SSG leaders. You know, the guy that he puts on the Nitro suit for games and stuff? Gymnast, I guess, cheerleader. He was smart, and he sat on the aisle, and he was an SSG leader. He did a great job. His students really liked him in his SSG. And he came up to me, I don't know, 4th or 5th lecture, because he had to be excused. So he gave me this thing, and he said, Dr. B, don't tell any of the students, but I'm Nitro. I guess they're supposed to be secret. Is that right? Is that still true? Nobody knows who Nitro? Well, somebody knows, but regular students don't know. Anyways, don't tell anybody, Dr. B, but I'm Nitro. And here's my program verification form for the days that I have to miss class. So I said, okay, Nitro, you got it. And then few weeks later after that, he became a special study group leader. And you know what happened? He was excused from the final. But by God, he came up to me and he said, Dr. B, I want to take the final. I want to take everything you got. And he crushed it. So, I want you guys, to emulate that. When I say keep striving upward and just keep ascending and working hard, that's what I'm looking at. Every semester I see stuff like that. And so it could be anybody in here. And I hope it is. I know it's going to be. All right. Homework grade. Now, 25 out of your 250 is 10% of your grade from homework. All right, so that's something out of 25. Now, this is a straight percentage. So, for instance, in this example here, 92 out of... So, if we have 113 homework questions in web courses, and you answer 92 of them, that works out to 81.4%. Okay, multiply that by 25, and you get 20.35 points, and then round it up to 21. I always round up. Never round down, always round up on homework. And I do something similar for clicking. Now, when we get a little bit deeper into the semester, I'll work through a clicking example with you because that's a little trickier and it'll take a little bit of time. And you won't really understand it until we've got at least 4 or 5 lectures of clicking on the books. And then you'll be able to see how that works. But homework and iClickers add up to 25 each, and those together are equivalent to one midterm exam. So here's another area where, with midterms we have the luxury of dropping the low one, but then even if you're stuck with one more that's kind of stinky, you have one nice one and one stinky one, but then if you have 25 out of 25 on homework and 24 out of 25 on clicking, that's like 49 out of 50. And that's nice. And that'll balance out a little bit of stinkiness on a midterm. So it's good. It works out great. Here's the homework page. If you haven't already seen it, you can get to it through the quizzes link on the left side menu. Homework 1. It'll always, so you'll just go to this list every day. The page with the basketball on it, and that'll be good. All right. Now, another thing that we are kind of changing horses in midstream by accident is the podcasting. And I traditionally record the podcast. I used to record it as enhanced audio, and now I record it as video, which is a little bit bigger files. But you'll see everything on the podcast that's on the screen, and you'll hear my narration. That's why I'm wearing this nifty microphone up here. Okay, and so it'll be posted for now. It'll be posted on this page with this purple purple podcast icon. Now the problem that we're doing right now is Apple is shutting down UCF's iTunes U service. I mean, they're shutting it down for everybody across the nation. Because we have what's called a private iTunes U. And they're shutting that down. They're no longer supporting it. So we have to figure out a new podcast route, and we're in the process of doing that. For right now, I definitely know, like this lecture is going to be podcast this afternoon. It'll be linked to this page. It won't be a YouTube like this one. This is Javier from the morning class, that little YouTube. Hopefully you already looked at it. It's the sliding down the aisle on a skateboard that we did at noon last time. I recorded that one in the morning lecture, and it's YouTubed up there. So our lectures will be there, and our podcasts, our demonstrations will be there. One already is, and our lectures will be there this afternoon. Okay, but they're pretty big files, so it might. I mean, if you have a data plan on your cell phone, it might burn up your data plan pretty bad. I don't know. You have to figure that out on your own. But if you're on campus and you have Wi-Fi, it should be good. It might be slow, but and I haven't used it before for a full lecture, so today will be the first. This will be the first lecture in this page on web courses. All right. Now, registering iClicker. We've already gone through this. You have to register through webcourses.ucf.edu. And it basically staples together your serial number on the back of your clicker. See, every time you send a click, the first thing it sends is the serial number of your device and then what you click. All right? And so I can always tell what serial number is talking to my computer up here. But I don't know who has that serial number until you register that serial number in web courses. And then it'll staple the serial number to the NID. All right? Now, for those of you that are freshmen, first-time freshmen here, you may not realize the difference. And I was in the same boat. My first semester, it was like Thanksgiving before I figured out that there was a difference between NID and PID. So I made so many errors and screwed up things. And finally, somebody over in computer said, "Dude, they're different. NID and PID. So if you're a freshman, yeah, um, be aware of that because scantrons have to be PID, but almost everything else is NID. And I don't know why they do it, but that's what they do. All right. And so I have to get your grades correlated to your NID. You have to go through web courses. If you go to iClicker.com, iClicker.com doesn't know jack about NIDs, your NIDs. And even if you type it in, what if it's wrong? Web courses doesn't have mistakes, so that's why we register through web courses. You must not use anything other than web courses. All right? If you do, you're SOL. Are you volunteering to ask a question? Go ahead. Wait a minute. What's your first name? Deborah. The Deborah Meister. Go ahead. Oh, that's the next slide. Good. Deborah asked me, do you go by accuracy? In other words, is it correct or not? The answer to that is no. It's class participation. So if you want to get it right, because here's something I don't have in the syllabus this semester. If you get 75% of the classroom, the lecture clicking correct, that's another 4 bonus points at the end of the semester. All right. So it's good to get correct if you can, but if you don't, you still get credit for 25 out of 25. And I want you to look at your syllabus carefully. You must answer 85% of all lecture questions, whether correctly or incorrectly, in order to get all 25 points. Now what that means is you have a built-in leeway factor. You can miss 1 or 2 lectures, 15% of the questions over the semester, and you'll still be okay. You'll get 25 out of 25. And that's my tip of the hat to the fact that lecture is not mandatory. Exams are mandatory, but not lecture. So if you have to go to the dentist, at 12:30 some Thursday afternoon, that's the only appointment you can get, go ahead and do that. But don't do it on an exam day. Lecture is okay. And you have 1 or 2 lectures to burn, and you'll still be able to get your 25 points probably. All right. But once you go more than one or two lectures, then maybe you're cutting into your pointage, and you don't want to do that. But we still have bonus points. So if you do cut, like if your iClicker goes on vacation for a week in your roommate's car, and you don't know where it is until like a week and a half later, and don't doubt me, because that's what every semester you should hear the stories. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so yeah, kidnapped unintentionally by your roommate's car, and you don't get it for a week and a half, it's going to cut into your pointage, so you might dip down to 23 out of 25. But then if you have a couple bonus points, like from SSG, that covers that up and then some. So we got everything, all the little dips that you could have here and there on, homework pointage, iClicker pointage, stuff like that can be covered up if you get a few bonus points over the course of the semester. One SSG is going to cover up most of that. All right? But it's not going to be enough to do a midterm. But little dribs and drabs, yeah, we can handle. All right, so 85%, and Deborah, as I said, correct or incorrect. So if you're here, make sure to click. If you're late, you're going to miss. Sometimes I have it first thing in the beginning of class. Sometimes it's all through class. Sometimes it's at the end of class. It just varies. So if you miss one, you miss one. But hopefully you won't miss a whole lot, and you'll get your 25 points. All right. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right. Now, fewer than 85% answered will make it proportional, but it's kind of tricky. And as I said, I'll go through an example or two later in the semester when we have some points on the board, and you can see how it works. Okay. Last thing to mention in this regard on the syllabus is this. You are responsible for having your iClicker with you in lecture. Okay, so if it's in your roommate's car, and they're down in Miami for a week and a half, you know, nothing to do about it. All right. Similarly, if the batteries are flaked out, nothing to do about it. So you got to make sure that you have the clicker here, and number two, you have to make sure it's in working order. And then number three, it's got to be registered. I've got to know your serial number connected to your NID. And if you do that, you'll get your pointage. Now, let me make a side note. Go ahead and write down in the margin of your syllabus Energizer or Duracell. The batteries that come with the clicker, if you just bought it this semester, they're really El Cheapo batteries. All right? And they've been known to fail at the drop of the proverbial hat. Now, if that happens on a midterm, or God forbid, the final, that would be what we call in the business an epic fail. All right, so just go. So as soon as you get your clicker, just go get some good Duracells or Energizers, and give those El Cheapos to your ex-boyfriend or your ex-girlfriend or something like that. I don't know. Question. Good question. What's your name? Joey. Joey's asking me, why do we need the iClicker on the exams if we're using the Scantron? The answer is, this iClicker allows you to type in numbers with decimal fractions and also letters. You can type in words. Not enough for a sonnet, but you can type in a phrase, and we will do that on exams. We'll do that in class as well. So that's why we'll do that, and we have some so when I say that an exam is going to be challenging, and you'll have a brain burner on the exam, a lot of times the clicker questions, which are usually at the end of the exam, the last 3 or 4 questions, usually the brain burner's in there as a calculation or some kind of a sentence or a statement that you have to type different letters in. You can actually type in some simple math equations with this iClicker. So that's why we use it, and we will use it for that on the exam. And the nice thing about this, you can make a note of this as well. On an exam, if I ask a fairly complicated calculation, nobody in here is going to be using calculus, so you don't have to worry about that. So we're not asking rocket science stuff. But the thought process is sometimes a little bit more involved. If I do something like that, it might be a 3-point question. And if you don't get it correct on a Scantron, that's it. You don't get the points. But with iClicker, I can look at exactly what you type in. So if you type in 402 and the answer is 40.2, I'll be able to see that and give you partial credit. Because you either mistyped the decimal point or you're off by a factor of a tenth. So it actually is a nice thing to have that, because you can get some partial credit. And I'll be able to see it. Usually I can see it. All right? And sometimes the clicker questions are just multiple choice. So you do A, B, C, D, E. But if it's a calculation or some kind of a sentence, yeah, I'll be able to give partial credit on that. And that's nice. Instead of all or nothing at all. Question? What you do with the iClicker is you look at the serial number, which is on the back of the clicker, little teeny letters. I think it starts with an 8 or a 9. And then you go into this page in Web Courses and you type that number in and hit return, or maybe refresh 19 times and then hit return, and you're done. And then at the and then once you hit return and it registers, it'll say registered on August 29th, 2015, etc. Okay, so you'll know. All right, question, Colin. It's on that Web Courses page. Remember where it's up on the left side where it says iClicker? Click that page, and it's the only thing you can do. There's a little diagram of where the serial number is on your calculator, and there's a little text box. You type the numbers in there, hit the return, and bing, you're done. And so it works pretty good. Question. BB is the frequency that we'll use. We're not doing any clicking today, though. So, yeah, BB, and I'll go over that again on Tuesday, and we'll do some clicking Tuesday, and that'll be good. Okay. Yeah. So BB is going to be the frequency. All right. All right. Now, so that's all I want to talk about with the syllabus. Before we dismiss, I want to spend a few minutes talking about Tropical Storm Erica, because it might become Hurricane Erica, and it may hit Florida. And in fact, it may hit UCF. Now, right now, the 5-day prediction cone, as they call it, it's the path prediction it gets bigger and bigger as time goes on, or as the forecast becomes more and more in the future. Right now, the cone it still covers Florida, but it's moved a little bit east out into the Atlantic. So now the middle of the cone is heading for the Carolinas. So we might not get hit. We might get some rain, but we're still in the cone, and it might decide to swerve over this way. So I want to talk a little bit about it, and everybody knows about hurricanes. Now, here's a diagram of the central pressure. Now, when you listen to the Weather Channel or Channel 9 Eyewitness News with Brian Shields and Tom Terry and all those cats, all they're blabbing about is the central pressure. Central pressure, 1,005 millibars. Right now, this morning, Erica was 1,005 millibars. This chart here is the central pressure graph for Charlie back in 2004 that ripped through Orlando. Raise your hand if you were around for Charlie. Oh, yeah. Anybody here from Lake Wales or Polk County? Because I hear you guys got all three, Charlie, Francis, and Jeannie that year, Lake Wales. Anyways, here's the deepest or the lowest central pressure for Hurricane Charlie. It looks like it's about 940 for the central pressure. Now, over here it says fair weather at sea level is normally 1,013 millibars, MB. All right, so when you listen to the Weather Channel, they're talking about millibars. And Erica right now is 1,000, or this morning was 1,005. It may have changed a little bit since this morning. Charlie was coming in here at 940 when it hit landfall down in Port Charlotte back in 2004. Anybody from down that way? Fort Mont, you remember what that was? Yeah. Ooh, a curfew. That's rough. I lived up here in Seminole County in 2004, and we had power out for about, I hate to say it, less than a day. I cranked up my air conditioning to like 60. And then when the power went off at about 9 o'clock, I was watching TV, and the power went off, but my house stayed cool until the next day, so it wasn't too bad. Yeah, hopefully we won't get hit. So anyways, this is the central pressure, and notice that even for Charlie, over here at 940, 940 is less than a 10% dip from this. Okay, a 10% dip would be a dip of 101.3 millibars, and that would take it down to 912 millibars. Charlie wasn't quite 10%. But there's something interesting about this that I want you to know about. The change in the central pressure, that one measurement, is very small, less than 10%. But the change in the weather is gigantic. All right? Now, there's a fancy word for that in physics. It's called nonlinear. N-O-N, are you taking notes? Nonlin, because it'll be on homework this weekend. Nonlinear, nonlinear. A nonlinear system means you put in 5 cents, you don't get 5 cents, you might get $5 worth of effect. All right? So, in other words, these guys up here, Colin and Cody, if they push with 5% more push force, they get 5% more momentum. Okay? It's 1 for 1. But with weather is essentially, it's intrinsically nonlinear, and that is what makes it difficult to predict, at least more than a day or two. All right, so that's why we don't know. So it's a nonlinear system, and you can see it right here. 400 miles away, 300 miles away from the center of Charlie, it was a lovely day. Up in New Orleans, Pensacola that day was probably a lovely day. Maybe a little cloudy, but But down there in Port Charlotte, wow, catastrophic. Another thing I want to mention to you is something called wind shear. I was listening to the news last night, Eyewitness News with Tom Terry, the weather, and Brian Shields. Those guys were talking about wind shear. Wind shear in the Caribbean right now is interfering with the development of Tropical Storm Erica. Now, what wind shear is, it merely means that up here at the top of the troposphere, so a little bit higher than Mount Everest, that's the top of that. Most of the atmosphere is contained up to that level. So most of the atmosphere is about 10 kilometers or lower. Okay, so that's what we call the troposphere, or the tropopause up there. Okay, that's the top of the tallest thunderheads, the biggest storms go up to that. Now, when there's a difference in the wind speed, way up here versus the ground, or way up here versus mid-altitude, few thousand feet, you have wind shear. In other words, if you have a lot of wind up here and only a little bit of wind at a lower level, or vice versa, a lot of wind on top, or a lot of wind on the ground and not much on top, that's wind shear. Or if they're opposite or conflicting directions, that's wind shear. And what it does is it deforms the hurricane, the eye, and it makes it hard for it to operate as a heat engine, which is what a hurricane is. It's an enormous heat engine. So, sucking heat out of the ocean and up into the atmosphere, and you get these catastrophic storms and stuff like that under the right conditions. Now, here's what the wind shear looks like right now. Actually, this morning. This is the area of wind shear that they were talking about. Now, right now, the storm is over here it's passing over Antigua and St. Martin, right in there this morning. And it's dumping a lot of rain. It's a tropical storm, so it's no great shakes right now. But here's the scale down here. This is green. This greenish blue area, it's got a lot more wind shear. So in this part of the Caribbean, the upper atmosphere is in a disagreement with the lower atmosphere, and it prevents Tropical Storm Erica from blossoming into a full-blown Category 5. Now, you got good conditions up here now. Here's Florida right here where the tip of my cursor is. Okay, and here's Texas all the way over here. All right, so here's some wind shear over here, the western part of Florida. But then right over here in the Bahamas, not much wind shear. It's a lot lower. And that's where they expect Erica to develop into hurricane. They expect it to stay tropical storm all the way through this wind shear area, or maybe even disintegrate. The wind shear will, Tropical Storm Danny a while back, wind shear did it in. Okay, Tropical Storm Danny was done in by wind shear. So maybe Tropical Storm Erica will be too. Anyways, so when you hear them on the Weather Channel talking about wind shear, disagreement, maybe same direction, but more up here, less down here, or vice versa. or different directions, deforms the Hurricane, makes it hard to work as a big heat engine. Now, next time, we're going to start heading up the mountain, and we're going to study some more of actually sliding down the aisle, and we're going to do some calculations that we couldn't get to today. And but over the weekend, you're going to have some homework. It'll be available by lunchtime Friday, and due on Tuesday. I'll see you then. You're dismissed. All right.